First of all, we're going to start with why is weathering important. Weathering is a process that occurs on the surface of Earth that breaks down rocks into small pieces called sediment. Ultimately, weathering makes our soil. There are three types of weathering. There are mechanical or physical weathering. Those words are interchangeable. Chemical weathering and biological weathering. Throughout this lesson, we're going to go through each type of the three forms of weathering. The first type of weathering is mechanical or physical weathering, and it's a physical process that breaks rock into fragments with the same chemical makeup and characteristics as the original rock. The only thing that's happening here is the rock is physically being broken. An example of physical weathering would be frost wedging. So this is your first example. This occurs in temperate or cold climates where water enters cracks in rocks and freezes. Because water expands when it turns to ice, pressure builds up in the cracks which break. And you can see a diagram in a drawing and an actual rock that's broken from frost wedging. Another type of physical weathering is exfoliation. This is the process in which layers or sheets of rocks gradually break off, just like you can see in the picture. It almost looks like those rocks are sliding past one another in sheets. Another example of physical weathering is thermal expansion, and this is when matter changes in volume due to temperature. When an object is heated, the particles start to move around, which causes the object to expand or get bigger. Well, when it expands and gets bigger, and then it retracts, it makes cracks in the rocks, which weaken it and cause it to break. Another type of physical weathering would be plant roots or burrowing animals could cause mechanical weathering, like the first two pictures, or abrasion, which is the process of wearing something down by friction or rubbing. And you can see the lines or striations in the rock at the bottom of the picture, at the bottom of the page, that's been weathered by abrasion. Our next type of weathering is chemical weathering. This is when chemical reactions dissolve minerals in rocks or change them into different minerals altogether. An example of chemical weathering is oxidation. Oxidation is the same thing as rust. It is a chemical process that occurs when iron, which is a metal, is exposed to oxygen in the air. The top picture is a rock that's gone through oxidation, and the bottom two pictures are iron or metals that have gone through oxidation. Another type of chemical weathering is dissolution, which is rocks and minerals that are dissolved in acidic waters. So this would be like acid rain causing weathering, just like in the tombstone you see at the top of the page. Another type of chemical weathering is hydrolysis. Remember, hydro means water, so this is a chemical union with water. What happens is first the mineral in the rock expands, and then they gently crumble, so the minerals gently crumble into a powder like clay. And at the bottom of the picture you see the mineral feldspar, and it's changing into the mineral or the powder form of clay, small sediment. The third type of weathering is biological weathering. Biological weathering is weathering caused by living organisms and can occur by either mechanical or chemical weathering. So basically, biological weathering is mechanical or chemical weathering. It's just done by something that's living, something that's alive. One example of mechanical biological weathering, so just physically breaking rocks, would be burrowing animals or tree roots breaking through rocks. A chemical biological weathering is chemical weathering done by a living organism. And in this bottom picture is the organism lichen secretes enzymes on a rock that breaks the rock down. Climate also affects weathering. Mechanical weathering is more rapid than chemical weathering in cold climates. Chemical weathering is more rapid than mechanical weathering in warm, wet climates. So mechanical weathering, more rapid in cold climates. So mechanical cold. Chemical weathering is more rapid in warm, wet climates. So chemical weathering, warm, wet climates. Rock types can also affect the rate of weathering depending on what the rock is made of, what minerals make up the rock affect how it's weathered. Okay, to wrap up this lesson, this is what you need to think about. How does weathering create soil? And looking at the diagram, this is kind of an easy way to kind of sum up everything we just talked about. Basically, if you look to the left, we have our three rocks, igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic, that make up our crust. These rocks can be weathered physically, chemically, or biologically. When they're weathered, they're broken into smaller pieces, like in the second picture of the rocks. Then they're weathered some more into even smaller pieces of sediment, which forms our soil, and then that sediment can be eroded or moved around as well.